every single business, despite being in a similar industry, they're all very different. They're all in different spots. They all have different minds. It's never easy asking someone about their criminal background, and you never know what answers you're going to get. The contractor is a massive asset to the investor. In the investor community, I understand we're not always pulling permits. It's just the reality of what's going on.
We were in negotiations for investing in real estate. They're winning, they're making money.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Real Estate Educators Podcast, where we provide the education you can build on. I am your host, Kevin Amolsch. This podcast has been so much fun. We're helping real estate investors and real estate educators. So if you're out there buying properties, fixing and flipping, building a rental portfolio, or if you're helping real estate inventors by providing education, providing content, this is the podcast for you. I have a super special guest, especially for you Colorado fix and flippers out there, Mr. Andrew Laverenz. Laverenz, did I get that right?
Nailed it.
Here's why I say it's a special guest, because he runs a really cool organization out here, the Contractors of Colorado. I got turned on to this, Andrew, from the Facebook group, but it seems like it's much bigger than that. You're helping contractors actually turn it into a profession, and then you're providing contractor like a space for contractors and people who need contractors to come together and get projects done. So welcome to the show, man.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And you did kind of nailed it. That's what we do around here. Is we're here to help professionalize the contractor industry.
All right. Well, I want to hear a lot more about that. But before we get into the contractor industry, I want to get to know you a little bit. So how did you get into real estate, and specifically on the construction side?
Oh goodness. Well, the condensed version, I came from data analytics, had a great job, Fortune 500 company. I couldn't stand sitting behind the dual monitors, playing with Excel spreadsheets all day long. Wanted to move into something different and really just kind of turn the next page. I moved with my now wife. We've been together since we were 15, high school sweethearts. We moved from where we were in West Michigan all the way to Wyoming. She took a travel position. She's in healthcare, and we landed in Cheyenne. It was completely different than anything we've ever been used to. I needed work because I just walked away from my job, gave my 2 weeks and all that, but just, kind of walked away in essence and needed something to do. Hooked up with my neighbor who was peeling logs, and I asked him what he did for work, and he was like, "You're not going to like it, data boy." And, I went with him, peeled some logs. It was brutally hard work, and not a lot of people stick around, but I did. And all of a sudden, you peel enough logs, it's kind of like, welcome to the team. Get over here and help us start building this thing. So I built log homes with those guys up in Wyoming. And yeah, from there, I learned to really love the construction industry. It was completely different than a corporate office, completely different than anything that I had known in terms of work. It was very hard work, but also really rewarding. At a certain point, I did have to step away. I had student loan debt and in a higher education, so I wanted to put that to work. I got a call from a marketing agency that was providing software, and they wanted me to work and specialize with contractors. So I did that for years all over Wyoming, Montana, and then took on the northern Colorado territory, which turned into all of Colorado. And from there, really just worked specifically with contractors, and I spoke their language. We'd go out and maybe have a beer or two at the bar and go over their marketing plan, and it's just a really trust-based industry. So part of this started was, well, let's just give these contractors a place to go online and communicate, talk about their jobs, post their projects, be proud of their work. And in the meantime, let me just provide them with information about marketing, things that they can do themselves, knowing they probably won't do it, but it'll get my foot in the door, and they see me as a trusted partner in their marketing side. So from there, I started getting more and more members. At the end of 2022, the Facebook group had 2,000 members. That was a big milestone for us. We were all celebrating. And then it just kind of exploded from there into now a full-time organization. This is my full-time job. We have a full marketing agency in-house now, providing resources to the contractors, mentorship, everything like that. So yeah, we're 20,000 members strong in that group.
Wow.
Yeah,
Great job, dude.
thank you. It's pretty incredible. I look back constantly and I'm like, man, how did this happen? And it wasn't accidental by any means, but it was definitely it's more than I ever expected.
Well, obviously you have a strong business mind to do what you've done. Marketing, it sounds like, is maybe a strength of yours. Um, but it kind of came random to you. There wasn't like some mentor that you were pursuing. There wasn't like a lot of guests on here. Well, my parents did it, my uncle, someone else was in real estate. I read the Purple Bible from Kiyosaki, and then I started studying it in college. Like, that wasn't you at all. I mean, it
No,
was really your neighbor was like blue collar. What do you call it? Peeling logs. Never even heard of that.
peeling logs, just taking a straight blade and pulling the bark off of a log.
Exactly what it sounds like.
Exactly what it sounds like. Yep.
And so you're up there in windy Cheyenne, Wyoming, which I happen to love, by the way. And then you worked your way down into Colorado. And to get into Colorado, you just got some random call. That sounds crazy. So how did they find you?
Yeah, good old LinkedIn. They got a call and like, what are you doing? We've got this position open. And I was just kind of laughing. And my work history, they think they're calling a data analyst, and I'm sitting there outside in the wind. I can hear it in the phone and the feedback, the wind blowing, and I'm just like, oh, I'm out on the job site, I'm building a log house. We just put in the, 20th row. Like, what are you talking about? Like, can we talk later? Boss is staring at me, and then just chainsaws firing up everywhere, and yeah, it was quite the experience, but I absolutely loved it. But it was kind of all these pieces added up together to really put me on the path that I'm on right now. But yeah, you totally nailed it. It wasn't any predetermined anything that I was like, oh, this is exactly what I'm gonna do with this. It just kind of all came together, and the only direction I had was, well, it needs something like this. These trades need somebody. I'd say it now, and I'll probably say it again. These tradesmen, they're entrepreneurs. A lot of them don't think of it like that, though. So I just want to be that resource to make it as easy as possible to be the entrepreneur, to help them be the entrepreneurs that I know they can be.
And a lot of operators, like I think of attorneys, I think of CPAs, and I obviously think of contractors. Yeah, they're solopreneurs, I call it, and they want to build a business, but they don't have the education. They don't really know how to do it. What they know how to do is build houses, right? So you're helping them, and quite honestly, my experience with contractors is they struggle on the administrative side.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about how you help the contractors, because I do want to get into the fix and flippers, since that's mostly our listener, and how they can work with contractors for better success. But for
Yeah.
now, let's look at the contractor through the contractor lens. Like, what do you do to help them administratively? Let's start there.
Yeah. So we sit down with anybody who's interested. It starts off with our networking. We get these guys together. We give them a space where they can come, they can meet. As much as we love all of our realtor friends and our investor friends, we give them a space where it's just contractors. And we do that monthly. We have big quarterly meetups where the whole community is welcome, all of the real estate side as well, and all the other business professionals. But it starts with just that one meetup a month where it's just these contractors talking about what it's like in their world. So I think that earns a lot of trust. And then from there, a lot of these men and women want to sit down with us and learn more about what we do for the community. And so it starts with just learning, well, what are you going through? Every single business, despite being in a similar industry, they're all very different. They're all in different spots. They all have different mindsets. Some came in as, just somebody who had walked off another crew with skill and thinks they're ready to start a business. And now they're 4 or 5 months into it and realize they have no idea about the administrative. Others are very business minded and say, there's an opportunity here in construction to bring a professional level to this, but now they don't have the connections they need in the construction world to get the actual work done. So we find out where these people are at. Do you have a business plan? Do you have a roadmap to that business plan? Do you have a brand at all? Website, social media. So marketing is a heavy component of it because that's their identity a lot of the times. But then from there, it's a wide open conversation. You know, do you have a bookkeeper? Do you have a CPA? Do you have an attorney that's reviewed your contracts? Do you have contracts at all? So we ask all of these questions. We figure out who these people are and what their business is, and then we fill in the gaps. So we have all of our professional resources that we can offer, but then we also have these, we call them our verified affiliates, and they're partners to the community that provide professional services like those ones I mentioned: bookkeeper, CPA, commercial insurance, a fractional CFO, business coach, photographer, videographer, branding. I mean, anything that they need, we try to put this into an affordable package and an easy button for these contractors. And, you know, questions come up. Who answers your phone? Who answers your phone when you're up on the ladder? And just get a lot of thought-provoking things together. Do you know who you work with? You hire subcontractors, you said. How long have you worked with them? How well do you know them? Just so we can have a better understanding and help provide best practices, and then not just give this information that they walk away overwhelmed, but really put them on a path of, okay, you need to start with our attorney to get your contracts in place. And then from there, you know, maybe we go insurance, and then we make the next introductions that we need to, and we actually facilitate that. So I like to call it the easy button, because again, I know these guys, I've worked with them for years. If you just give them a list of stuff to do, it goes to the bottom of the list and it'll keep moving down because it's not, you know, something they can touch and feel and just get work done on. So
Yeah, exactly.
it's tough.
And
which
it's
I
all
completely understand.
contractors, right? So you have your GCs and all the subs, you work with them all.
Everybody, trade specific industries, general contractors, even laborers come in every once in a while where they don't necessarily even want a job or a business of their own, but they're looking for somebody they can trust that will allow them to come onto their crew and do good work. So anybody that is in construction or adjacent to, we always joke, we'll have a conversation with anybody.
So I'm trying to think of how to best craft this question for you. I have a friend who is in the landscape business, and they do mostly maintenance. And they have a pretty decent sized crew, and they're out there just crushing lawns. The problem is they don't get their invoicing out, and they do my lawn. And occasionally I have to like call him and say,
Yep.
dude, I gotta pay you. So what would be a piece of advice to my friend Van in the landscape business that can't seem to get his invoices out?
Yeah. You know, I'm biased in this side because I came from the software side, but I'm also very realistic about tradesmen wanting to use technology within their business. Not saying it doesn't happen, but it usually I catch some resistance. But what I like to sit down and say, you're writing down your customer's information, right? It's either in a book or it's going into your phone. If you can pivot that to an app that you use and you trust, which there are so many of them out there, there's automations built into where it follows your workflow. You know, first you have a conversation, then you come to an agreement. Okay, that agreement, it starts usually as an estimate, then it converts to an invoice. Maybe in your case, it's a recurring invoice. Do you want to pay every time? Do you want to pay monthly? So now you're even empowering your clients, your customers, to decide a little bit more how they want to pay, if that's a convenience you want to offer. Do they want to pay by credit card? Do they want to hand you a check? Either way, now you can still facilitate those payments and have those invoices go out, but now you have, you know, a payment processor attached. Or like in your case, it could be a recurring service from one date to an end date, and it could happen, you know, once a week, once a month, whatever. Automatic payments. Now it's a convenience for you. It's a convenience for them. It's something completely normal in this industry, what you just said. So
I know.
it's but that there's solutions out there that are actually good. And it's just about finding the one that works right for you. And that's another thing we try to help out with is you don't have to go through the exploration process. I know a handful of landscapers. I know what they use, and I'm here. I can recommend one to you, or I'm happy to connect you to them and ask landscaper to landscaper. What happens when you need to do this? Why do you use it? What do you like about it? What don't you like about it?
But that's a type of question that they can get answers to on the group, right? The Facebook group. They could just get in there and say, "Hey, which app are you using for your invoicing?" And they probably get a ton of answers.
Oh, a ton. I'm literally yesterday, I met with somebody that specializes in another, we call them CRMs, customer relationship management tools. Specializes in another CRM tool, and I met with him just so I can have it in my back pocket of, all right, if I hear these needs, this could be a good solution. Just so I'm not turning them loose either. You know, again, it's just like putting, you know, a commercial insurance provider and that contractor into a group text and starting the conversation for them. It's not just saying, here's a phone number, call it when you're ready. Well, they are ready. They just might need that nudge. It's that same thing where I could say, here's someone you can talk to them now. The conversation's already started when you walk out of this door.
All right. So for our contractor friends that are interested in growing their business and getting some systems in place and actually being like a real business, how do they get a hold of you to help them with that?
Yeah, so and I'll probably have to change this at some point, but all of our investor friends are welcome too. I just put my phone number out there. You've got my contact info. If we want to put it at the end of this thing, please feel free. My email is andrew@contractorsofcolorado.com. Anybody can reach out. We're very responsive. My phone is constantly ringing. I turned it off for this podcast here today because I
bet it
know
is.
I put my laptop on do not disturb just because I know it's always going off. But I love that because it's always somebody with a need, and sometimes it's a need that I handle in-house, and sometimes it's a need that I just get to make a connection. But either way, it makes our organization more valuable, and that's what we're all about, being a resource to contractors.
And contractorsofcolorado.com. They could go check that out as well.
Yeah, we have contractorsofcolorado.com. We have contractorsofcolorado.org. The .org is our informational website. It's getting fully reconstructed right now, so it'll be looking much prettier. This one is, you know, I have a little bit of web development experience, but I joke with all the contractors as well. You don't want me doing your websites. Like, we'll let the team handle that. They're much better at it than I am. And we've launched our own portal as well. So for all of the investors watching, if you're in the Colorado area, contractorsofcolorado.com leads to our portal that we've built, and it's our platform that is fully created on introducing our vetted contractor network. I can tell you a little bit about our verification process, but it's to introduce those vetted contractors to this specific audience, people who want to work with contractors that they can trust, you know, through us and through our name.
Okay. Well, I do want to have a conversation with you through the investor lens also. So let's just do that now. What do you do to vet your contractors?
Yeah, so it kind of started out of necessity. You know, you put enough contractors into a room, all of a sudden you attract the real estate market. So it started with, Andrew, who do you know who does this? Who do you know who can do this? Do you have a GC that you recommend? And it turned into, I kind of tapped out my guys that I knew, that I trusted because I've known them for years. I've worked alongside them. You know, I've sent them to other people and heard great feedback. I kind of tapped them out and realized, wow, this is going to be a lot bigger than just, you know, me and my capacity. So I kind of hit the pause button for a while and said, before I just start referring people that are active in the group or in our community, you know, I don't really know them all that well, and I definitely don't know their business practices. So I took my time and developed it's about 120 question intake, and it starts off with the basics that all of us would want. Is this a licensed registered business with the state? If this is a trade that requires any licensures like electricians, HVAC professionals, you know, any general contract work that requires structural changes, do they hold a license for that skill set? And then it gets into, what about your commercial policy? Tell us about your insurance. Do you have workman's comp? Then we dive into financials. Give us a financial review. Have you had any financial disputes in the last few years? Have you had any litigation against you or your company in the last few years? I mean, all the way down to background checks, understanding who the owner is and what their history has been. So we just try and hit all those basics, but then we really dive into the advanced stuff that make homeowners feel more comfortable, or project holders. Do you have a brand? Do you have a website? What do your reviews look like online?
Yeah, this is great.
Yeah, I mean, it's exhaustive. A lot of the times, I've heard several times, like I feel like I'm on Shark Tank right now. I've heard, I feel like I'm getting interrogated. And I don't want it to be that way. It's always a very light conversation. But it's never easy asking someone about their criminal background, and you never know what answers you're going to get. And I've been very surprised in the past. But these are the questions that I've found that a lot of project holders don't know to ask, and it's no fault of the project holders. I mean, I've talked to literal brain surgeons whose husband was a business owner, but not anything in the trades. And, they gave their money to the wrong person and it disappeared on them. So that's kind of a responsibility that we want to take on more and more and say, I can't guarantee that this is going to go perfect, because it doesn't in construction. It's just the nature of the beast. But what I do want to be able to say is, when something goes wrong with this person, I understand who they are as a business owner. I understand who they are personally and ethically. And we ask those kind of questions too. Tell us about a time where something didn't go right, and what was your response as a business owner? So yeah, we try and cover everything. Usually takes about an hour, depending on how chatty I am that day, or the person across the table from me. Could take up to 2 hours. We get org charts to understand who's involved, who answers the phone, what systems they use, how they take their payments. I mean, again, sometimes questions come up that, hey, you didn't ask me this. Well, guess what just got added to the
Yeah.
process? There's
So
a
you're
reason.
constantly building your interview questions.
Constantly. Yep.
This episode is brought to you by Pine Financial Group. Pine Financial is a private lender specializing in short-term rehab lending to real estate investors. Got a property that needs some love? We can help. We are able to offer funding solutions because we raise private money from individual investors. With more than 15 years of experience, Pine offers passive investors an alternative that provides stability, consistency, and security to your portfolio. If you like real estate but want to avoid the ups and downs and effort, a Pine mortgage fund could be a perfect fit for you. Accredited investors will experience an 8% preferred return and profit sharing. Diversify your portfolio out of Wall Street and into Main Street with a Pine Financial Group mortgage fund. Get more information at pinefinancialgroup.com. That's pinefinancialgroup.com. All right, I'm going to tell you two quick stories, and then you tell me how should I have handled this better. So this is when I was doing a lot of fix and flips myself. So I was maybe 24, 25 years old at the time. And I gave somebody $500 to help me with a water heater. So this is years back. You used to be able to get a water heater for $500. He took the money to Mexico. Never heard from him again. I had another time, I was rehabbing a house. It got to a habitable condition, and he stopped working on it and moved in. He literally moved in and squatted in my property. Actually, I have a third one that just happened to me recently within the last 2 years, where a contractor loved the house so much because it was very close to a lake that he just stalled the project so long so that he could utilize the property for the lake. So those are, pretty extreme examples. And then he ended up getting arrested out of the property. I showed up to the property, Andrew, and there was crime tape on my house. So that's a whole different story. And I'd love to share that if you're interested. But so those are the types of things that's like, how in the world? And each one is probably different. So I probably should have just started with one. But how do you protect yourself from that type of contractor?
Yeah. So like water heaters, for example, they take permitting, and it can be a hassle. Permitting, I know I just made half of your audience shiver a little bit with those words. But when it comes to, working on your own property, And especially with trades like plumbing, for example, anytime you're doing any sort of plumbing changes, that is something you want to see. Does this person have a license? You know, from there, whether you're doing your homeowner permit or whatever the case might be, that's up to you guys. And it's, you know, it's like I have my political answer, and then I have my like, all right, now we can be more realistic about the situation when it comes to permits, and that's a whole other discussion. But
Right.
it's, you want to be sure that you're working with somebody who's legitimate. You know, if you came to me and it was a $500 water heater install today, I'd be like, well, red flag number one.
Sure.
We always recommend go get a couple bids. And there's a reason why bids come back cheaper than others, and it's not always a great reason. You just want to be sure you know who you're working with, and that's where like our verification and our vetted contractors come into play. If you're in a state where, you know, our program isn't, it gets a little more difficult. That's where reading reviews come in, looking for websites, making sure that these people are running a business like a business. And you're not just getting, I see this all the time. Yeah, we're a licensed plumber, to stay with this example. We're a licensed plumber, but yeah, you're licensed with a company, but it's a Saturday and you're trying to make some side cash. Well, now if something goes wrong, guess whose commercial insurance policy Monday through Friday is no longer
No, yeah.
because that's not in the scope of work. They're not working under that company anymore. So there's just little things along the way that you want to check on.
Managing the cash though. 'Cause so that guy, I did 12 deals with him, right? And then he just needed money for something, which I never did figure out why. But when people don't have money, Andrew, you probably know this better than most. It changes them.
Oh yeah.
Like, and they'll do things they wouldn't ordinarily not do because they have this need. And so I think as an investor, as a fix and flipper or a rental property owner, we have to be very cautious with the money, even after a relationship is established.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, payment in full upfront, red flag. Ideally for something at a lower cost, and I know $500 can be a lot, but in this world that's considered, you know, lower cost. If they can't cover that up front or work with you to go purchase materials, you put them on a lot of these investors have, you know, Home Depot Pro for preferred accounts, things like that. If you can't call in the order and pay for it when they're there picking it up, if there's advance payment needed on material at that cost point, that's something else that might be a little bit of an alert for you. But yeah, I mean, it's tough, especially when you build that trust up with somebody. It's hard. And that's where kind of our ethics side comes in, asking about financial history and how they handle situations when things do go wrong. Because word spreads quick, especially in our community. Word spreads very quick. And that's where we make sure our guys and women, they would never even consider it. And even if they were considering it, they know the backlash of some action like that is nowhere near worth that sort of decision. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's good. So the advice I'm hearing is pay for maybe materials, but you call in the order, you pay for it, they can go pick it up, but don't ever give them the cash. Do I understand that correctly?
Every business is going to work different. You know, sometimes you're just in a situation where you have to put that trust in them. But doing your due diligence, you can usually feel out who's going to be a good actor and who's not. You know, I wish there was a silver bullet answer to this one. It's that mixture of do your due diligence and understand. I'm a massive fan of line itemed estimates, invoices, things that, you know, paper trails. Look if they have a business license. Ask for a copy of their insurance. Make sure it's valid. All of these different things that kind of anchor you to them. Now, if they disappear and go back to Mexico, that's tough. I mean, that's a really tough situation because it's very permanent. You know, that it's not like they're going to go to your next door neighbor and try to do the same sort of thing. They packed up and
They're
left.
gone. Yeah.
Right. But if they have this master plumber's license, a lot of people aren't just going to walk away from that. So there's different
Yeah,
things.
but we're investors, Andrew. We're looking for the most affordable way to get it done. And a lot of times
Yep.
that isn't the licensed people. So I hear you and I agree with you.
Yep.
It's just that sometimes we're just trying to get stuff done, so
Oh,
we're getting the
oh,
handyman in there and we're not pulling the permit to do a water heater. I don't even know if I've ever seen that. I
yeah.
mean, people just swap those out, right?
Yep. Yep. Yeah, there's always the nuance of it. And I totally understand. We work with the real estate investment community all the time.
Mhm.
And cost is everything. It's an investment. It's money in, money out. How much are we walking away with? Um, Developing a trusted crew is what we really lean into. And these are some of the things that happen. If you're gonna take a gamble and you gotta go
Yeah.
with somebody who's gonna be doing it for a lower cost, well, that's where relationships come in, but there's also the risk that you're taking on. You can call the big company that pops up first in the Google engine search and they're most likely not going to do something like that, but you're going to pay a
Right.
premium for it. It's
Yeah.
just that matter of tolerance that you have for that sort of risk. And in projects, you got to take on a little bit more risk, unfortunately.
Okay, well, we're winding up on time, it looks like, but I do have a few more for you. So I'm thinking of like a contract. If I'm gonna do a full on fix and flip, and it might be 80 grand or $100,000 job. Obviously, we want to contract our contractors, right? We want an agreement in place. It protects both sides. So if we're looking at an agreement, Andrew, what are some of the things as from the investor's point of view, should I make sure 100% can't miss, they have to be in the agreement?
Yeah. This is where I would say, not the expert.
Yeah, got it.
Here's my contact. But for the sake of the conversation, there's a few pieces that you definitely want to have. One would be sort of benchmarks and timelines and expectations. Um, Again, when you go back to the financial situation, definitely half upfront, half a job completion type scenario doesn't necessarily make sense. Let's break the project into stages. Let's have different payouts at different stages. If you're working with lenders, they're going to have a lot of that built in anyway. But being sure that you are breaking it up into manageable chunks and that you're not also just completely MIA from the job site. And if you're going to be, you need to have eyeballs on that site at least every few days or a few weeks from somebody that you can trust to make sure the project is going well. I know a lot of investors will come and subcontract out trade crews and have sort of a project manager on site. Sometimes not even a project manager. You're just bringing in a tradesman to do the floor and somebody else to paint, and maybe a couple walls have to get moved. And if they're not structural and we don't pull our permit, we're all good. But again, I understand the nature of the beast when it comes to this. But having that trusted project manager or a general contractor is like the insurance policy that things are going to go smoothly. Guys are showing up on time. They're actually working, not just kind of hanging out on the job site, and doing the work well. Because that's the last thing you want also as an investor, especially in this time of high house costs, competitive markets. You want to be sure that you're building this home and redoing this home with your end user in mind. So you want to be sure that you have guys in there that are doing the work to the quality level that you need. And if you can't be there, well, you want somebody that you can trust them at their word. But for the contract, yeah, make sure that these things are well defined. What the level of work and the level of quality that you're looking for is, and lien releases, things like that, where when they're paid, we're doing our due diligence to make sure they're not going to come back with their handout. Watch out for change orders. Understand what your definitions around change orders are and why they may or may not be necessary. Because somebody underbid the project and now they want to change order you for a certain amount because they didn't account for enough materials. Why? Why did that happen? And again, things happen, but you need to know if a change order does come, it's warranted, not just, oh, I got to ask for $3,000 more for this, they say. So yeah, just be sure that we have these things well defined. Other than that, you don't need to work with an attorney every single time, but have an attorney the first time. get those contracts
100%.
in place so they actually work if it gets to the point of litigation. And
I
again,
100% agree. I'm so glad you said that.
yeah, make sure you have these pieces of documentation in place, and you know from a legal perspective that you're doing the right things and that you're working with legitimate businesses. Because if you just go to take somebody to court, and if it gets to that point, unfortunately, and they're not a real entity in terms of the eyes of the state as a business, well, good luck. I mean, it's just unfortunate, but it's the reality of the situation.
Yeah, and here's my experience, Andrew. I'm curious if you agree. When you're working in this business and you're a reoccurring relationship, right? You're doing houses, whatever, they're helping you maintain your rentals, whatever it is, you will have a conflict with your contractor. I don't care how good your relationship is. So the contract is very important. Now, does a conflict mean that you're going to court? Absolutely not. I think you probably can avoid court forever and never have a court battle with a contractor. So, for example, if there's the $3,000 change order because they underbid it, is your contract strong enough to force them to do it without getting paid for it? Maybe, but is that the right thing to do?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
You probably want to negotiate, work through it, and keep that relationship strong, even through those little conflicts. Because look, as your contractors are vital to your success. So why would you burn a bridge, especially if you have one that you have a relationship with it? So yes, have the contract, and yes, have some lenience would be my advice. One thing you said that I really liked, Andrew, also, and maybe you want to touch on it just a tad more or elaborate, is the payments. The contractors live many times they live paycheck to paycheck, and I hate to say it that way, but that's sort of the reality. And when their draw is due, they're expecting that. So part of keeping a good relationship is to keep that money flowing for their benefit. So I don't know. You did touch on that, but it went very fast through it. So I don't know if you want to elaborate on that at all.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with the previous statement. When it comes to the payment cycle, yeah, it's, maybe you have an agreement set up where at the completion of each phase of a project, you pay out the business owner. A lot of times that business owner is turning around and paying his
Yes.
subcontractors on a weekly basis. And, we're dealing with people here, and it can be difficult at times, but we do have to understand our responsibility and the business owner's responsibility is to make sure that the lowest man on the totem pole is getting their family fed. And if they're in the unfortunate circumstance where they're living week to week and they're relying on that weekly paycheck, whether it's cash, check, Venmo, whatever it
Right.
is, that they're going to get it. And so now as investors, is that our problem? No, I think that's safe to say it's not our problem. And this is where we encourage the business owners to really take accountability. And if they're putting their guys in a position to where if a week or two goes by and they're running behind on the project and haven't completed their phase, they're not getting paid, and the business owner has to turn around and tell them, hey, you're not getting paid this week, and now it's affecting their family. It's a bad situation.
Yeah, that's not good.
It's not good. So we encourage, that's where, we have financial advisors. We have people that coach financial responsibility to these business owners that we work with. This is where also maintaining and holding timelines helps everyone and being clear cut. No, we don't want to burn bridges, especially if we have found some guys that work well with us, work with our price points, understand that it's not just about this project, but it's about the next 10, it's about the next 50. That's another message we preach to these men and women all the time in the trades is it's not about this one bathroom remodel or this one basement remodel. It is about the lifetime relationship with this investor, because the last thing they want to do is go hunt for new new contractors.
100%.
And the last thing you want to do is keep searching for work. So, and here's the beauty, they need you and you need them. So let's make this work, and let's be transparent with each other. So sitting down, you said something earlier that I really liked. The contractor is a massive asset to the investor. And for the longest time in a market where anyone could invest and anyone could come out, in the positive, these contractors unfortunately got treated like an insignificant line item that was replaceable a lot of the time. Now I'm encouraging all of our investors to treat this contractor like a partner. Because if you treat them like a partner, you got to understand their business is reliant on how your projects go and your success as well. So if you can also turn around and use them as consultants, maybe before you buy a property or while you're walking the property, all of a sudden you get much better at your job because now you have the ability to look at it through the lens of a contractor that's, hey, this is what we're going to do and we're going to do this. And they look at you and go, and your budget is what? There's no way. But if you buy that house and now you've got to start compromising from day one, things get a lot harder. So utilize them as an asset, treat them as a partner, because at the end of the day, you are business partners in a sense, just not sharing the same business, but you're relying on each other. It's symbiotic.
Yep, I agree. And one thing I like to do, just throw this out there, on some of the larger, and I've built from ground up several projects. What I really like to do is maybe on a Friday afternoon, just bring a bunch of pizzas to the site, or you know, a Wednesday morning, just a bag of breakfast burritos. And it's such a small little thing, but it's so appreciated. And then it brings like, it's not just a transaction anymore. Now it's like the partnership as you're describing. Something like that. I'm going to throw that out there. It goes a long way.
Absolutely.
All right, man, I'm gonna go through my notes here because we are definitely over time. And and then no, this is great though. And then
Awesome.
you just tell me listen to what I'm saying, and if there's anything that you want to add to it, then throw that out there.
Yeah.
So you got started. We talked early in the conversation about how you got started, went up to Wyoming, down to Colorado, and then you just loved the contractor business because of your experience with the log homes. And what you decided to do was to create a tight group of contractors. And the benefit here for the business owner, the contractor business owner, is peer support. And that's true in any industry. We do this in real estate investing. We have little investing meetings and meetups, and we help each other. So you created that for contractors, and it's vital to have your peers to have success. Do you have a plan? You said that multiple times. Do you have the people on your team that you need? Do you have the CPAs, the accountants, your bookkeepers, your attorneys? It's important to use technology. We talked about using apps for permits, and then some diligence that you could do as an investor. Are they licensed? Do they pull permits, bids, get multiple bids, look at their reviews, line item bids. You said that. I love that one. That's a good way, guys, for the line item bids. And I preach this to our clients. Like, if you're going to get multiple bids on a project, you need to break down what you want done and give that list to all the contractors so they're all bidding the exact same thing. Otherwise, contractors will just kind of put in whatever they want in the bid, what they think the house needs, which oftentimes is right, but it really makes it hard to compare apples to apples. So side tangent there. In the contract, create benchmarks and timelines, draw schedules, keep your eyes on the site. I love that one. So definitely you or someone you trust, get out to the site and keep an eye on it. Is the quality work good? Are they doing what they say they're doing? Make sure you get your lien waivers. And then the final thing I wrote down here, Andrew, was treat your contractors as a partner. And that's going to have some longevity in the business, because it is, you create success together. So how did I do on the notes?
Nailed it.
Did good, huh?
Yep.
Cool. So I'm going to ask you your contact information quickly one last time, and then I would like one piece of advice to real estate investors that you could share before we leave.
Oh, wonderful. So contact information, Andrew at contractorsofcolorado.com. And then my phone number, it's direct to my cell, 720-422-4600. 720-422-4600. My piece of advice, final piece of advice to the investors, get competent at one thing at a time. Become great at basement remodels. Become great at single family flips. Don't go all in, and don't expect a job and a budget to go perfectly. If your job is hinging on $10,000-$20,000 and you're doing a single family home remodel, that might be a little too slim of a margin, and you might end up very, very underwater at the end of a project. You never know when you take down a wall what you're gonna find. Even if you walk a site with the best contractor in the world, you know, they don't have X-ray vision. They don't know what's behind that wall. If you find something unexpected, you know, that's something you're gonna have to address. And I guess my second piece, can't help myself. In the investor community, I understand we're not always pulling permits. It's just the reality of what's going on. But there are certain things that have to do with safety. And we might get away with something for our first 10 houses, but in our 11th, what happens if we overloaded a circuit and there's an electrical fire? We don't want that responsibility on our hands. So as investors, there are certain things that we just need to do our due diligence and be safe about. And it's our responsibility. So that's all I got for you.
Well said. Really agree. I 100% agree with you. Permits are an interesting thing. We could have a podcast just on that.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Might be longer too.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I gotta say, man, I know you're super busy. You have all these calls coming in, and you had to silence everything for us. And I super appreciate you spending 45 minutes with me today, man. And it's good to get to know you. I do enjoy your group. If you guys aren't on it, Facebook is the one that I see. I don't even know what your membership is now, but it's huge. So it's the Facebook. It's just Contractors of Colorado. So thank you, Andrew, for hanging out with me for a little while. And the listener, I really appreciate you as well. And there's lots of podcasts you could be choosing from, and you chose to check this one out and hang out with Andrew and I for 45 minutes. And we do so appreciate you. If you got some value, which I hope you did, I know you're going to give us a 5-star review and you're going to share it with a friend. And with that, I hope you make this day a great one. Thanks, Andrew.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. If you did, please be sure to follow and leave us a review. Oh yeah, and tell a friend.